Chapter 5 Gathering Flow. Angelina stepped past the tree just right of the auditorium entrance. A quick eye found only empty pavement directly ahead. Someone walked along, stumbling far left down the street, and someone else sang badly in the distance. She couldn't tell where the song was coming from exactly. And then there was Spider and his date. They were in the corner of the main doorway, pulled in tight, making the usual noises. Angelina ignored them both. Well, she did give the woman a quick glance, wondering how anyone would have such long legs. And that hair was gorgeous. Angelina was quite sure she'd never fit into a dress quite that well. Shaking her head, happy to be basically alone, she made her way to the fountain with its wide bowl and started to try and clean her silk scarf. The fountain was never on for long, and the water was rarely clean, but the water reflected the moon beautifully tonight. Dark had settled a ways back. The cold dampness had quickly followed. Angelina was hugging herself for warmth between bouts of feverish scrubbing and careful kneading, and quiet belittling herself for being so stupid for so long. And now she'd willingly ruined her only thing that meant anything to her, the one thing that others hadn't stolen or ruined on her, and she'd ruined it for an empty box. There was a reason they called the decoy runner a dupe. She'd fit the bill perfectly. Fighting the urge to just give in and cry, refusing to break, she sucked up her loss and aimed herself for inside where she could get some sleep. Tomorrow she'd decided she'd be gone, and she'd need all her strength for what was to come. Angie, Spider mumbled as she neared. Angelina didn't reply, not when Spider and the woman were still quite actively getting to know one another better. Later, the woman grumbled, pushing Spider back, nearly slapping him in the same act. Spider stood there, clearly stunned a moment, while the woman stumbled off, weaving unsteadily in her steps. Babe, wait, he managed. You're drunk, the woman shot back, still zipping up the back of her shirt. So am I, she added with a laugh. I'm out of here. Shit, Spider grumbled. Angelina continued inside. What, you too? Spider added, turning around as if looking for something he'd lost. Angelina figured he'd been talking to her. It's been a long day, Spider. Rough chore, then? Was a low grunt, a staggered step, an exaggerated shrug. I thought you were running. Angelina turned, hugging herself for warmth and security. I was, she groaned. The crazies were on my ass, and there was nowhere else to go. Spider was staring at her. She wasn't sure if he was listening to her or about to pass out. She kept talking anyway. I ruined my clothes and everything, and it was a dupe. They had a second runner. I was the dupe with nothing to protect me, and it worked well. I'd say it worked beautifully. So what's got you? What? Angelina barked. Haven't you been listening? Yeah, I have, he countered testily. He tried a step, then stopped to steady himself. They've been doing this for a long time. You aren't the first dupe, Angie, and you won't be the last. You're an orphan. No one cares for you but us. It's just how it works. Yeah, well, maybe I've had my share of dupes for one lifetime. One way too many. Look, I got you a coat. Spider turned around once again as if looking for the lost item. The pointer finger was flicking around as well, isolating nothing in particular. It wasn't easy, he mumbled on, but I swung a deal. Thanks. At least there was something good from the day. I'll bring it around later, Spider vowed, starting off into the night. Meet me in the hall by the old calf in a bit. I'll give it to you then. And my end, she called after him. We'll talk about that. Angelina stood there a moment, wondering how long a bit was. She was tired, but to get a coat she'd need for her coming flight from town, she'd need to stay up an hour. She'd stay up too, if need be. The walk down the corridor seemed long. Her footsteps echoed too loud, and the three people leaning against the walls watched her pass too closely. They sniffed at the air and curled their noses, for that matter, muttering back and forth. Angelina's gaze found the corkboard as she passed. Tuesday's wash schedule. She'd miss it. Reaching her locker, she glanced back. The others were still watching her. They were still mumbling, too, for that matter. Maybe it was a good thing she was planning on staying awake. She pulled her blanket from her locker and headed into the gym, finding a spot in the left corner away from anyone else. Let them have their prime sleeping spots this night. A careful roll and angled lie down. She stared out, letting her eyes adjust to the moonlight allowed in from above. Most of the lumps under the stands and across the floor moved. Shadows crouch-walked by the far end. They stopped by some of those lumps, then walked on. Someone complained about a stolen watch, and the crouched shadows hurried off. Angelina closed her eyes. Sleeping in a warm, safe bed was far from reality. Living in a safe, waking world had become just as bad. There were noises, couples going at it somewhere, and low laughter caught her ear. She rested her head to one side, carefully taking it all in. She wanted to know where someone was coming from before they got close. They were all excited about some guys they saw was carried across. It was low male voice. Raiders? I don't know. I don't think so. Or they'd have gone on about wagons and fires. This was only 2 people, 2 men, I think. Maybe they're scouting for raiders. Setting up targets, maybe? I thought they'd all died out or moved off. They haven't been around for so long now. My friend says the cities put a price on their heads, so people went out and killed all the raiders in their settlements or wherever they live in when they're not, raiding. What's that stink? Are the sewers backed up again? Over there. That's rank. You just smelled it? Yeah, so what? Angelina ignored the following jokes. She couldn't change clothes. A pair of travelers spotted from the wall? How could that be when there weren't any people in the towers? She couldn't help but wonder if this pair of travelers was the same pair from last night's vision. She'd foreseen them arriving the night before they'd actually come. That would mean that while she'd been running for her life through the sewers, they'd been exploring the warehouse no one else dared enter. That meant the dark something that had broken her vision could have already attacked and killed them. They could already be dead. It would likely be too late to head their way. Angelina still wanted to try. At least if she headed for that warehouse where her vision had taken her, she knew she had shelter. Cursed shelter, but shelter was shelter. And they might still be alive. But she couldn't make it alone no matter what resolve she'd found. She accepted that much. But it wasn't like she had a long list of friends. The moonlight blinked. She felt a pull, a tugged, awkward motion. A momentary start, and she was up and staring wildly about. She had been moved a few feet. The blanket was bunched by her calves. She hadn't noticed falling asleep, but the gym floor was quiet. It was definitely later, already past midnight even. Angelina did a quick check. Nothing was out of place. Her hair was out of place, but wait. She felt her neck again. They'd taken her scarf. Angelina crouched, turning and looking for where they'd gone. She'd make them pay for stealing from her. The coat, the scarf. Next, who knows what they'd take. She had to make them pay now so they'd never try again. Giggling drew her attention to the doors, and she crept after it, blanket in hand. She stowed the blanket behind the door, listening for something more. The corridor was flooded by dim moonlight. There were so many more shadows than she'd expected. The giggling continued right with a scrape of rubber on floor, a rubbing of jean against wall. The echo and direction suggested the showers. Angelina really didn't want to follow a group in there at night. But she wanted her scarf. How badly? Why hadn't she just stayed awake? A soft whistle ahead. The left shadow turned and waved. She'd no spider's profile anywhere. The meeting. She'd been supposed to meet him by the calf. Right. She'd get him to teach those thieves a lesson. He'd likely quite enjoy that. Eyeing the open shower doors carefully, she made her way down the corridor, turning right. Up on the left, other end of the new hall, she spotted Spider now leaning on the cafeteria counter. He donned his leather jacket and combed his hair. He seemed his sober self once more, for that matter. Here it is, he whispered, moving a jacket around from behind as she approached. What do you think? It's great, Angelina mumbled. It was lined and would fit. Where'd you get it? Don't ask. What's wrong this time? Angelina sneered, hastily wiping her eyes. They just stole my scarf. He laughed. I figured they'd do that a ways back. Angelina glared across. I'll get you a new one that doesn't smell so bad. Want a drink? Angelina hadn't noticed the bottle he took a sip from. Beer? No, it smelled more like liquor. No thanks. Fits great, she noted, slipping the coat on. So what do I owe you? She decided she'd try to enlist his help getting the original scarf back after squaring away this deal. Teaching those punks a lesson would have its own cost, no doubt, and she could only run one of Spider's under-the-table deals at a time. A little talking. The sly response had Angelina feeling immediately uncomfortable. Maybe if she hadn't been so alone with him in the dark, having just lost her scarf. I didn't think you were much on talking until tonight, she braved anyway. I don't mean, she corrected, blushing, feeling she just offended the only person who was somewhat kind to her. It's just we don't really talk much. Maybe I just don't talk much, she mused inwardly. Talking's overrated. Hadn't he just suggested talking? You were just saying? Spider stepped in closer, curling his nose. There's more than one way to talk. Angelina took a step back. I suppose. Who were you talking to earlier? A quick, casual, dismissive wave. Forget about her. He stepped up, leaning in closer yet. I already have. The bottle was set on a plastic crate. His hand found her side. I've been watching you. You're growing into a fine young woman. I should get back. His hand became a grip that held her in place. She feared where his other hand would go next. You're so alone, Angie, he whispered in her ear. You don't want to be alone. She squirmed her way free and stepped back, hugging herself. I'm fine, she insisted defensively. And 14, you jerk. Thanks for worrying. Stay, he urged with that sly grin. I'd rather not. His tone changed to one of warning. I said stay. She found her steps stopped where she turned to go, where she turned to run, for that matter. Give me some company, he urged in an equally warning tone. It's the least you could do. He stepped in again with both hands this time, and she pulled free once more, running a few steps before turning around again. I said no. Spider returned a disgusted scowl. You don't get something for nothing, he hissed. You like the scarf and coat? Just think what else I could get you with the right persuasion. So he was like all the others who stared at her. She hated herself for coming to him so freely, for trusting him as much as she had. I need to go. You need to stay, he scoffed. Kiss me. No. Don't cross me, Angie. She could feel the bite in those words and backed up a few more steps. Who do you think's been keeping you safe all this time? He barked, pointing towards the gym. The Barkers? They don't care about us, I told you. No one else cares for us but us. I've been patient watching you watch those other guys. Angelina felt herself blush. I've been keeping the others from jumping you, Spider spoke on with a curl of his upper lip. And I assure you they aren't dream material, babe. He paused, letting his pointer finger slowly fall. I'm tired of waiting. It's time you learned what a good girl does for her man. Angelina had no interest whatsoever in a drunken Spider. Not wearing sewer-smelling clothes in a dark hallway, not so close to those open shower doors. For all she knew, there were 3, 4, or more people watching them. He certainly didn't want an audience for what Spider had in mind. And again, not with Spider. Help for running away? Maybe. Sure. But not sex. I never said you were my man, she insisted defensively. I didn't ask you to watch out for me. You just took it, he joked. Jeered. Such a tease. Now get over here. He tossed his jacket to his side. We've got plans. Keep your damn coat. She pulled hers off too and threw it over. Keep your damn scarf and protection. I'm out of here anyway, and to think I was going to ask you if you'd like to come. She only made it a few steps more before his derisive laughter had her stopping once more. You'll die out there, he mocked. Don't be a fool. That resolve again. I'm done being the fool. Walk away now and you'll forever be the fool. She started walking again. Fuck. You better watch your back or I'll have them take more than just my scarf back next time. She hit the doors and stared towards the gym. Those gym doors were so darkly lined. So Spider had planned the theft. To draw her out to him? Next time they could easily do more. And no one in that gym would stop them. Just roll over or complain about the noise. She knew that much. Refusing to sell some things just for a roof over her head, she pushed her way through those outer doors, seeking solace in the night. Bitch, came the follow-up swear and banging on the stuck doors behind her. Angelina didn't stop walking until she crossed the fountain and stone expanse surrounding the auditorium. She stopped at the curb with the night hiding her under the streetlight that hadn't worked in years. Someone screamed left. Laughter echoed right in 3 places, followed by some breaking glass more central. Something was being dragged through a puddle behind her. She turned with a start to watch a man in his shabby old coat and ripped pants make his way across in front of the auditorium, dragging an old canvas bag behind him. She couldn't tell what was inside, but it squirmed. The man was soon gone to the night. She spotted Spider at the auditorium door, holding it open with a half-empty bottle in hand. Her scarf was held up for enticement with the other. A deep shiver took over and she closed her eyes. Call it pride or stubborn insanity, but she couldn't do it. She couldn't sell her soul for a coat and scarf. Certainly not when, in taking that bribe, she'd just end up stuck in a town for life doing whatever he said whenever he said it. She somehow knew she'd never get out from under that thumb, and she wasn't sticking around. Not gonna happen. I'll just have to hope I'm not wrong. She turned from the auditorium and marched off into the night. She knew the route. She knew the route start at least. Would she split down Synagogue this time? Keep on Cambridge? She could try the sewers back down Synagogue, but there was no telling where she could get out from the sewer lines near Town Hall. The steam wafted from the open grates. That heat down there was tempting, even with that large bunch of rats fighting to all climb out at once. She sped up to not be there when they got loose. Hi, she mumbled with a shaky jaw, rubbing her arms for warmth. I'm Angelina. You're Gordon. At least, that's what I was told. She cursed under her breath. Stupid, she grumbled. Hi, she tried again. A dog howled in the night, some cats hissing closer in. She sped up even more, her heels clicking on the sidewalk in a steady rhythm. Hi, I'm Angelina. It's nice to meet you. What's your name? A bird fluttered sharply above. She ducked, watching the bird rise again with a small rat in its talons. She turned to make sure there weren't too many more rats behind her, then hurried on again. I need somewhere to sleep, she resumed. I don't need much. I'm certainly not accustomed to much, so a little won't offend me. It occurred to her that she wasn't even sure where the boy slept. The town hall youth lived in different houses around town, but from what she'd heard, he'd only been seen around town hall. He had to be living in the apartments 2 doors down. There was always someone holding the door open thinking you lived in those places, so getting in wouldn't be a problem. Finding this Gordon might take work. Figuring out how to introduce herself to someone she'd only ever stared at, someone she was scared to talk with, well, figuring out that part was going to be a challenge. Hi, I'm Angelina. Can we talk? Hitting Cambridge, she ducked in behind a tree to hug herself for warmth again and make sure no one was following her. The street seemed empty. She wondered if the crazies all slept at the same time, or did they take shifts at haunting and chasing down girls? They're likely more active at night. Shit, what is that? She had to frown and shake her head. No one had told her anything about a dance. It sounded like it was coming from the ballpark. I don't think I'll be missing much. It hit her that this party could be a good thing. If they were busy partying, she could slip past unseen. Thankful there was no breeze, she walked on, skipping across the street and slipping in behind houses. The sports complex was filled with groups of people, drinking and dancing around large bonfires. Singing was the worst. She noticed some of the child stalkers watching from a nearby bush. These crazies were great role models. As songs changed, some people hollering their own tune broke off and started down Cambridge. Angelina did her best to slip from shadow to shadow behind them. The ghetto blasters blared the next song, with various choruses heard from one side of the gravel field opposite the grassy patch. Angelina kept going straight as the front group turned left into the tennis courts, where people were knife fighting for money. Money was held out and shouted forward as the teens in their oversized shorts circled looking for an opening to draw blood. Barbaric. She walked on, overly conscious the shadows around her could hide crazies. This close to Cambrio territory, she might run into them, too. Not that she could actually run without drawing attention. Oh my. She'd never seen a bonfire that large before. But there it was in the middle of the street with 100 Cambrios talking, dancing, fighting, or just plain gathering around it. She cut left past the tennis court's fence, pausing before the actual ballpark. Smaller fires had taken over around the ballpark, too. The apartments she'd been thinking about had lights on in each window with people running in and out all right. There was no way in unseen, and she didn't want to be near drunk men just then. With all this madness overtaking the neighborhood, she had to wonder if all the police had taken the night off. Was this happening elsewhere? Had the whole town gone mad? The dampness was really setting in. She couldn't stay outside too much longer, not since she could almost see her breath. And a breeze was even picking up now. If she aimed for the apartments, someone would see her. So she made a change of mind. She'd hide out at town hall, curled up in a shed or something. She could find Gordon tomorrow and talk to him then. Around, past those fires. That wasn't going to happen. She was sure they'd remember her. This time, skirting the ballpark wouldn't work. She'd have to slip through the actual infield, hoping everyone still inside the ballpark walls was asleep. The more direct route would be faster, less predictable. Hopefully no one would be expecting it. As such, she hoped it held the best chances for working. The first part was easy. No one even looked at her as she made her way towards the ballpark and stepped in through the outer wooden wall. She stepped back into shadow. Everyone inside seemed too busy with each other to notice her there. Maybe not right across the field, next on second thought. A compromise? A direct but more cautious route after all. She started around under the stadium seating. Knocking and groaning had her stepping out for one stretch before skirting back under cover once more. Some couples seemed to enjoy knowing someone was near and watching. They even got louder as she approached. She had to be crazy herself. Keeping her head down as well as she could afford, she speed walked on until hitting that infield. She climbed up into the stadium seats and sped along the bottom row. 22, she mumbled softly, counting seat numbers as she went. 21. Seat number 1 was right up against the back ballpark wall, with Town Hall a quick run away. A woman growled 4 rows up, followed by a man's off-key sonata. 20, Angelina continued, trying to block the mental image those sounds had brought to mind. A bowling ball bounced down the steps, hitting the backstop ahead of her. That made her pause a moment. She just stared at the bowling ball, wondering how it had gotten there. She hadn't noticed the two older teens by the exit ahead right, but she did now. She could hear three others behind her now, too. "What brings you here?" the one on the left ahead of her asked, flicking some hair from her face. She inhaled deep and checked her well-pierced nose. "You must be lost." The teen beside her wore similar jeans and jacket, but his hair was short. He didn't even have an earring. That made him almost normal. But his gaze was dark. Angelina had seen something much the same in Spider's eyes, only she was sure this one wouldn't let her go off alone. "I'll be on my way then," Angelina tried. "Not until we say you can go," the male teen intoned. "Hold her," he instructed to the people behind her. "Think we have our next clown, don't you?" The teen beside him laughed hysterically, bending over with an unsteady nod while steps came in close behind. Angelina had to think fast. The only thing that came to her was simple, and she doubted it would work, but instinct had taken over anyway. "Oh shit, look at that!" The guy turned, his companion just blinked. Angelina bowled her way through them, knocking the woman down the steps to the grass. He just hit the wall behind him, swearing coarsely. Angelina's shoulder really hurt, and she jumped through a break in the back wall, out into open air at last. Angelina aimed for Town Hall at top speed. It was just like it was morning again. In fact, shouts resounded, and a herd of crazies seemed to be joining the chase again, with a chorus of wild howls. It was all too much like the morning all over again. A flicker of light as she hit the street. Movement under the front steps. Was that a waving hand? Wait, it was gone. Angelina couldn't believe it. Waved. What way had the hand been waving? Memories raced through, around. She was supposed to run around Town Hall. Something was at the back. Or someone was playing a really bad joke. She hoofed it around Town Hall, dodging a fence post and bolting between garbage cans. The cans crashed to the ground amid tangled legs and more coarse language a moment later. Angelina was already around the far corner with its chalky molding and dirty trim. She only just saw the open vent and waving hand again. There was no skidding into this opening. She skidded to a stop, yes, but then she had to turn, duck, and drop down inside. The grate covering was quickly shut behind her. A heavy bar was slid across after that, pinning the grate to the inside. That much done, her helper dropped down to sit on the floor beside her. She glanced over, hearing shouts and swears race past outside. She focused on her savior, still shaky from the run. The boy's short hair was still matted in place, but there weren't any overalls anymore. He wore a striped tee and faded jeans. His sneakers were work boots, she realized. Up close, she even noticed he had freckles and marks on his nose where glasses had once been. "Thanks," she whispered. He shrugged. "You're Gordon, right?" A hesitant nod. "Angelina. Nice to meet you." People started kicking at the wall above while someone tested the grate. They both sat there staring up until the barrage had stopped and everyone seemingly ran off. "No one walks through the ballpark at night," Gordon mumbled. "Not unless they're crazy." He eyed Angelina's pants and shirt. He sniffed the air. "You stink." Angelina closed her eyes. "You must be cold." "And hungry," she groaned. "I missed supper." Gordon slowly nodded. The 10-year-old then stood, glancing through a side window. "They're gone for now," he reported. "Follow me. I don't have much, but you can have some." It was the first time Angelina paid any attention to where she was. She had figured it was a basement, and it was, somewhat. Maintenance boxes and pipes were lined up in rows, some also in cages along the left. There seemed to be a maze of tunnels around each. To the right was much the same, but with more closets and brooms and hooks. Gordon led down the middle in his work boots, glancing anxiously up and around as they walked. The sounds of chase could be heard every so often. He bade Angelina wait and made sure the windows were all secure before returning and stepping quickly down a square stairwell near the front to one side. One floor down, Angelina found herself in a vast storage room. There were more pipes and a boiler. There were more closets and clothes on hooks. Wooden crates were locked, and there was shelving on one end filled with individual file folders and cardboard file folders. It was also ancient. Lights hung from the ceiling. They were old and dusty, but they didn't flicker. Gordon led them down past the old museum pieces to a small niche he'd set up near an old fridge. Closets here had been organized by size and color. Overalls, jeans, and work shirts were hung on actual hangers. Boots and shoes were lined up on the top of a small shelf and along a window ledge. Well, it wasn't a window, but it was a cement ledge. It was like someone had decided to ignore the window part and just cement it up. "I don't have plates," Gordon mumbled, dropping into an old leather beanbag chair. "I broke the last one a few days ago." Angelina surveyed the niche some more, with its table, chairs, and even a few paintings of people and buildings she didn't recognize. "You really live down here?" He glanced up and around with a shrug. Yeah, they lost the key to the lower basements a few years ago. They sent me in to find it the one time. I found all this and made it my home. They buy my stories of it being a death trap condition, so they stay up top. Angelina was nodding, appreciating the setup more and more. She opened the fridge and studied the pots and pans wrapped in paper and plastic. I raid their fridges upstairs when they go home, Gordon offered glumly. I don't like stealing, but they don't pay us for our work here, and most of the food they bring in just goes bad anyway. I return the pots when I'm done, he noted apologetically. Angelina picked one pan full of what seemed to be casserole. That could be macaroni, at least. It was food. Gordon pointed to a shoe hanger beside the fridge with its elastic pockets. Like everything else in Iroquois Falls, it had been adapted for different purposes and now boasted forks, knives, and spoons. Angelina picked two forks and slid in at the table in a waiting seat. Thank you, she made sure to mention. He quietly nodded. She held up the second fork. Help me out? I hate to eat alone. I was about to eat when I heard them, he mumbled. You ran faster this morning. He accepted the fork and started in on the food. Angelina paused mid-bite. What he'd said finally sunk in. You watched me leave this morning? She asked. I saw you in the yard. He sighed and nodded. I know. She stopped eating to blush and hang her head. I'm sorry I haven't spoken with you before, she added, feeling so guilty. And here I am getting you into trouble and eating your food. You're hungry, he conceded, like it was only natural she'd need to eat. They'll bring more. The front desk secretary brings the most. Think she's wise of me taking it, but then again, she's right nasty to everyone. So it's hard to be sure. And I haven't spoken to you either. He frowned. Just couldn't. Angelina nodded while eating, trying not to fork up the whole casserole on her own. It didn't taste good. She was just that hungry. Gordon didn't argue with the silence. He ate as well until sitting back and resting the fork on the table, letting Angelina finish the remaining bites. She paused in her eating once more and glanced across. What's with the hair? He lifted his gaze, clearly unsure what she meant. You must have water down here, she explained, but it's pretty, well, in need of a wash. He smiled at that. I used some resin I found in the one corner, he replied with a shrug. It smells like tree sap some days, but it gives everyone the illusion I don't have water, so they don't get smart on me. Angelina shrugged. Good thinking. You'll want fresh clothes, Gordon mumbled distractedly. He stood and turned. They didn't leave any girls' clothes here, but there are some pants and such from old carnival days in a box down here. Give me a minute. He disappeared around the file folder shelves. Angelina kept eating, marveling at his ingenuity finding and securing such a place to live. Metal hit glass, and she realized she'd eaten most of the casserole on her own. She felt more horrible than before. Something in here should fit, Gordon announced, dragging a good-sized box into sight. He opened the flaps and motioned inside, then shrugged and stepped back. They're awfully colored, though. Not much I can do about that. He took his seat again while Angelina picked through the top layer. The slacks, pants, and shirts weren't too bad, but the shirts were patchwork and freakish. Then again, they were all better than what she had on. I can't thank you enough, she insisted. He shook it off. She smiled and slipped behind the shelving to change. She didn't know him well enough to strip, so she just put the fresh clothes over the old. A pair of out-of-date, overly zipped jeans with reinforced knees went on first for warmth and fit. Why are you doing all this, she asked. Helping you? Yeah, you don't even know me. Do I have to? She heard something that went unsaid. Or was she just reading into things? Just having someone talk to was worth any risk. Still, she didn't know Gordon. He didn't know her. She didn't think he wanted what Spider was after. Maybe he was just in need of a friend. Someone as different as he was. Most people don't do much for anyone unless they want something, Angelina reasoned. She buttoned the pants and pulled an oversized shirt jacket on over her head. It was yellowed and pinstriped and could have been 70s wear, but it was warm. Yeah, I know, Gordon accepted, out of sight. I get that all the time, too, but this is different. Angelina turned her head as if glancing through the bookshelf. Like we're the same, right? She stepped out, still glancing across, finding he hadn't moved from the beanbag chair. He was playing with the table edge, picking at something that clearly wasn't there. We're both different, right? He asked, spotting her there. He looked her up and down, then nodded. So what can you do? She crossed her arms and averted her gaze. It was the moment to share, and she couldn't find the words yet again. Fear was so strongly ingrained. They stalked different people in real life. I can see what's happening places, she finally confided in a low voice, unable to speak up yet needing to tell someone. Sometimes I can see what will happen in the future. She still couldn't make eye contact. You? He shrugged. Well, I can tell them there's nothing down here and take their food and live here without them doubting a word I say. She glanced across again at that. I've found that if I don't ask conflicting questions, Gordon noted with a grin, they'll do whatever I say. The grin drooped in a resigned frown. But if I ask too many questions, they kind of go nuts for a while. It isn't pretty. No family? He shook his head. They left. You? Died in a house fire a few years back. He nodded. I've been out of that orphanage ever since, Angelina continued, walking along the cleared aisle down the middle of the room. She scanned the different items as she passed. And you've been living here how long? A few years. She stopped to consider some large boxes set under the stairs they'd come down. They dropped those off a few days back now, Gordon noted where he'd come up behind her. He stuffed his hands into his pockets and smiled. They were aiming to burn them, I think, so I brought them down here. What's inside? Coats, mostly. She made a beeline for opening and searching through the boxes. The sixth coat down had her cursing a long string. Sorry, she added in a huff, but this one's mine. She held the gray ski jacket to her chest a moment to make sure it was real. She then started picking through the box some more. There are shoes in here, she grumbled. They were going to burn all this? Gordon nodded. If I wear them, they'll know I took them, whether they do what I tell them to or not. I just didn't want them burning good clothes. Angelina switched her shoes for a better pair, then sat on a dusty stool and shook her head. They're hiring orphans to steal from their friends for what? She asked. She couldn't believe anyone would do such a thing. Then again, Spider had done the same. He could easily be involved. To keep us low and wanting? I bet this is Spider's source. Boxes like this, at least. They're keeping us at each other's throats. Literally. How pathetic is that? Gordon found no reply to that one. I'm leaving town, Angelina offered. Want to come with? She gazed across pleadingly. She'd intended it to be an innocent glance, but it became something else. She not only couldn't do it alone, but having found someone who was helping her for the sake of being nice, she realized she just plain didn't want to do it alone. Where are you going? The question had come out too agreeably, yet uneasily to some extent. Angelina furrowed her brow. He turned and walked back towards the small niche, then further down. She followed, finding him sliding a folding table out from the wall. He then unrolled a plastic map and fitted into corner table brackets. What have you been up to? She asked. He grinned sheepishly, pointing to the different dots he'd colored in on the area map. Town was only a central part of the whole. It's an old surveyor's map, I think, he mumbled, still blushing. I listen in when I can, when they haven't gone home and I've been back inside from working. These dots here are places where they found something they're worried about. They don't look like much to me, but who knows? I'm not in office. What do they look like? Gordon shook his head. I don't rightly know how to describe them. Odd clumps in the grass? He shrugged, rolling his eyes. Whatever the case, the mayor's reinforced the wall guard at night. That's why you don't see them during the day. They dug out some strange rocks of some sort from the old days and passed them around too, whatever they do. And there was something important about the box you took. It was empty, Angelina growled. I know, Gordon mumbled. She glared across. They were talking a few hours ago before they left. Before the ballpark went crazy, he offered with a sad frown. The secretary felt bad sending you off. Not bad enough to warn me. No, Gordon agreed, but it sounded like the mayor made her stay quiet. Whatever was in that box, the real one at least, the crazies really wanted it. They've heard rumors, I guess, talk about something big being up. They must have figured the box was full of secret plans or money payments, maybe. Whatever these dots mean, something's happening around Iroquois Falls that's got the mayor all worried. And whoever he's talking to on the phone sometimes is worried too. Angelina felt a chill even with her old coat held close to her chest. Then it's past time for us to leave. She found him nodding. I don't really have a plan, she confessed. I have a place to go, but nothing else beyond going over the wall which you say they're guarding at night. It would explain why the wall has been so empty during the day. During the day they'd likely let us go, he mumbled, tapping the map near the locomotive place. I was thinking of going over the wall here, but it's rougher terrain there, and going around town to get anywhere populated would take an extra 4 or 5 days, having to leave the long way. Angelina eyed the two main roads leaving town. They led out at odd angles. A third road headed north from the back of town, and it led more directly north. All in all, Gordon was right on any account. The town was an awkward shape that would take a long time to walk around over rough terrain from any exit point. She circled the warehouses north of town with her right pointer finger. I want to go here. Gordon closed his eyes and hung his head. What did I say? She asked, wrinkling her nose. You've been there? No, Gordon groaned. He sat back against the wall radiator. No, I haven't been there, but I've been dreaming about warehouses and you. Angelina blinked wide. Gordon shrugged. It's like there's something I've lost and I need to go find. A calling, Angelina agreed. I had those dreams, and then I had the vision. The old man, Gordon mumbled distractedly. And his apprentice. Gordon lifted his gaze. They're wizards. I couldn't see exactly what they were doing, but they spoke spells, and it seemed to be doing something good. Gordon sighed. I only see one of them in my dreams. He's pretty sad, too. It's like he's alone and doesn't like it. Who would? Angelina shook her head. The old man had been alone in Gordon's dreams? It made her wonder if things would go horribly wrong for his apprentice. I want to go there, she pressed. I want to find someone who could tell me if these visions are anything. Can you actually make people do things? Or do you just ask nice and seem innocent so they help you? Am I psychic or something else? She rambled on. Angelina hoped she was something more, just so long as the pair from her vision were still in the warehouse when she finally got herself to them. Preferably both alive and well. If she was going to be stalked, she wanted to be able to go invisible or just plain make them leave her alone. She wanted to be something important, something grand. A psychic just wasn't grand enough. Magic users had power, and they could teach her how to do and be all that. I don't really know what I do, Gordon accepted. I just do it using tricks I've picked up. For what it's worth, my words don't work on everybody. So let's get the people in that warehouse teaching us, Angelina reasoned. If nothing else, they can tell us what's really going on. Do you have supplies we could use? Gordon motioned here and there around the room. I've been gathering them. I've got rope and packs and emergency food even. I got some fishing stuff, which I don't think we'll need. He paused to rub his nose. The flashlight batteries are dying. I've been using them to read the last few months. Sorry about that. Angelina couldn't help but smile. No problem, she countered happily enough. And all I brought were angry crazies and another fork to eat your food. He grinned, shaking his head. Angelina inhaled deep and turned a few times. Is there a washroom in here? I use the one on the main floor, he replied. I'll show you. We'll just have to make sure they're actually gone first. The janitor likes to take his time. I actually found him asleep on the mop once. They took the stairs up to where he'd let her in. From there, he opened what looked like a locker door to Angelina. It led to a rather simple metal ladder, and Gordon started to climb. Asleep on his broom, Angelina mused as they climbed. No wonder the floor wasn't really clean. After a short climb, Gordon paused in his step. A vent cover showed the main floor. Gordon peered through and between the angled slats. He sings off key while he works, he noted, biting his lower lip. The man just has no rhythm. And you do, I suppose? Anyone has more rhythm than that guy. They both grinned, as if on cue a rather off-key sonata could be heard somewhere above. Gordon climbed one more floor up before stepping off the ladder and crouched walking stealthily along a relatively clean duct 3 vents over. Stopping and nodding, he pointed through into a private office beyond. He must have fallen asleep somewhere. He always does this office third to last. That still gives us a good 20 minutes, even if he picks up speed. That should be enough. Angelina led the way down, letting Gordon show her how to remove the vent cover once back on the main floor. Once out of the building's vent system, they fit the cover back into place, and Gordon gestured the way along the wall. It must be neat having the whole place to yourself to explore at night, she whispered, making sure to stay alert for any off-key singing. It gets a little lonely after a while. Angelina frowned. She supposed it would. Gordon glanced out a window, shaking his head. The fires still burned, and people danced and broke things. I just never did find the nerve to actually leave, he mumbled dejectedly. Even with all the supplies I keep gathering. I've just never been able to actually go. Well, now there are 2 of us. We'll go together. Angelina nodded, glancing behind them. We should hurry. There was a shared nod, and they turned the next 2 corners in silence before hitting the plain brown doors and affixed bathroom signs. They each took their own rooms, of course. Angelina made a beeline for the first stall. When she was done, she washed up, loving the feeling of warm, clean water on her skin. Arms and legs got a quick clean after hands and face. The towels were even clean. They felt so soft. She eyed the shower room for a lingering moment. Since when did Town Hall have shower rooms? Hearing a soft pacing outside, she straightened up her hair and did what she could before sneaking back out into the hall. I need to come back later, she whispered to Gordon, where he now crouched against the opposite wall. He just motioned back the way they'd come. She figured it would be easier to get back up when the janitor had gone, so she conceded, and they started back. This time Angelina stopped by the window and gazed outside. It was so dark and those fires seemed so red. The shapes out there were so much more frightening when they didn't have faces, when she didn't know if they were looking back or not. Wait, she mumbled. Could you get me into the offices? We could find something maybe on what was in the real box they sent to the mill. Gordon shook his head. It's locked up, he replied, equally soft. They always keep the keys on them. He pursed his lips and bobbed his head left and right. But we might be able to do something. Hearing a broken hum, they both turned. Gordon guided them back towards the nearest wall, and they ducked behind a large clay pot with its tilting plastic fern. A moment later, the janitor came out in his faded blue jumpsuit. The mop was dunked in a rolling bucket that was being pushed ahead. Angelina watched him wheel the bucket up to the same window they each gazed through. She wondered what he saw. Maybe they could have Gordon ask him. He would likely just answer honestly. The janitor scratched his bald, wrinkled brow before slowly nodding and turning back around, walking away. When the rough, near-coughed hum had trailed off, they poked their heads around the pot, finding the way clear. Gordon exhaled, clearly relieved. I think he went upstairs again. To ask him what's going on. I told you, Gordon countered. My words don't work for everyone. A quick blush. I've tried with him, but he just blinked and kept on berating me. I just ran that one time. I fended him off by talking to the secretary and mayor who do listen. But they're not here right now, so we're steering clear. Follow me. They crept across the main hall and back inside the wall vent. Once back inside the vent system again, they started to climb further up. Angelina was figuring Gordon was leading her into an office after all, but they didn't stop until they hit the roof. There, Gordon added with a shaky point. The telescope's pretty good. I've used it before to match their numbers with actual sight. Angelina wished she'd brought her coat with them. With this full moon, you can see what all the fuss is about for yourself. Angelina shivered, exhaling sharply. You clearly like heights, she grumbled. You don't? Not really. Sucking it up, she walked over to the telescope and let Gordon find her something to look at. There, Gordon mumbled a moment later. Angelina fit her fingers in her armpits for warmth. It's bigger than when I last looked. There are more of them than last time, too. Angelina took over. Just looks like damp clothing, she murmured. Did that move, or was I imagining things? Gordon took control again. A tent, maybe, then? He wagered. That would explain changing sizes. They're trying to build up tents without being noticed. There are black shapes around it now. They're about 50 yards off. Another one, but still smaller. Angelina budged her way in for another look. She followed Gordon's finger and spotted the second mass. Clump, whatever it was. They still looked like damp clothes discarded into a pile to her. She'd taken the black shapes to be rocks. She supposed they could be something else, but they weren't moving. So there's a bunch of these clump things going up around town, she surmised, Gordon nodding. Could we use this telescope and that map of yours to plot a safe trip north to those warehouses? I don't see why not. You really think they're still there? What if they kill us thinking we're from the town coming to kill them? Angelina sighed. We're too short for guards or police, she assured him. And if they're wizards like I think, if I haven't just lost my mind taking some random dream for a true vision, then they'll know we're coming, and they'll be ready for us. Gordon nodded. I hope you're right. Yeah, me too. There was something there with them. She shivered more from the memory than cold. It was stalking them. What if there's more to those clumps around town? We should leave tonight. Gordon's frown was sour. I'm not walking out past them, he grumbled, pointing to the fires and shadowy movements around the ballpark and beyond. Neither of us would survive the trek. I've got another route in mind. Gordon hugged himself, visibly uneasy at the suggestion of leaving at night by any route. Angelina curled her upper lip. I hate suggesting it, but we could use the sewers all the way past the mill and out past the dumping station. Just keep heading north after that. Crazies can't navigate the sewers. And you can? She curled her nose. I'm getting used to it, she offered. But at least if my life depends on it, I can be used to it. His gaze was downcast. Do you want to spend any more time in this town or take a chance finding something better, she dared. They could take us somewhere else, I'm sure of it. Gordon didn't respond, but he didn't argue. Angelina took that for a good thing. Let's get a few hours sleep before heading out, though, she suggested. You do have 2 beds, right? Gordon nodded. There are some extra cots in the one locker. We could set one up for you. You don't actually have to come if you don't want to, she assured him. You've got a pretty good setup going here. I wouldn't blame you for staying. Gordon in and exhaled a few times, studying those bonfires and pensively listening to the angry shouts and boisterous cries. I've hidden away here alone for a long time now, he mumbled, as something wooden was broken through down below. Several glass bottles were broken a moment later. It's time I stop hiding. Besides, I've got access to the town's sewer maps. Without me, you'll be stumbling around hoping you pick the right route. I can even get us into the maintenance tunnel so we won't actually have to travel with rats. I don't like rats. Angelina was smiling wide. Why didn't I talk to you sooner? Come on, let's get some sleep already. Maybe some more food, I'm starving. Angelina gave the night one more long gaze before following Gordon back inside. Once down in his space again, they found her a cot and some extra coats for blanket. She vowed she'd get that shower before leaving. A few hours' sleep was in order first. Climbing in under those coats and laying her head on an actual pillow, she smiled contentedly. Things were finally looking up for her. For them. Cool leather on skin. A silent space. A sensation of being somewhere else. Angelina opened her eyes, expecting to see Gordon laying in his cot across from her in the corner he'd used for sleeping. But the 10-year-old wasn't there. Town Hall wasn't there. She found herself standing in the warehouse again. She checked her clothing, finding the same jeans with padded knees and striped, oversized shirt. At least she wasn't someone else this time. There was a dull mumbling. She could even smell something. Meat. She followed the soft echoes of wood groaning and momentary heel clicks until stepping out into a large room. There she found the old man she'd seen and been the last time. He was sitting cross-legged before a low fire. She circled him a few times, trying to figure him out. He'd worked magic and he was in charge. That was pretty much all she knew. Could they trust him to help them? It was a leap of faith seeking this pair out. She accepted that much. Hearing those momentary clicks again, she lifted her gaze to take in the apprentice where he turned and stared back. Angelina was happy to know this person couldn't see her. She turned and considered the closest window. It was night. So this was the pair the others had been talking about in the auditorium. They'd mentioned two men being spotted near the warehouses, and it was night now here too. So this was present? This vision, this moment in the warehouse, and her and Gordon sleeping were happening at the same time? She decided to follow the apprentice a bit. He kept turning to stare at the old man. She could tell he was jealous, or protective and worried. It was impossible to tell. He made a slow tour around the room and out into the hall, with Angelina following a step behind. The clothes looked so comfortable, his hair was almost shiny, and it was so clean. She could handle the easy life of being a wizard. Certainly beat surviving in small towns. The apprentice continued his rounds, and Angelina made to keep in step, but her right leg stopped moving. Her left leg wouldn't move either. Her body felt as if pulled back into the center of the room, and her right leg started to turn her round. That was when she noticed a double image around the old man. It was like he was sitting on top of himself, and he was staring right at her with bright blue eyes. Lips moved, saying something, doing something. She fought the steps, finding the strength to stop walking, but her body was still being drawn back towards him. Dragged against her will, she reached forward to grab at something, anything, but loose beams and stacked drywall had no grip. She tried one last-ditch effort to run, but she was lifted off her feet. Her body was turned and flipped, and she landed on the floor across from that fire pit, taken by fright. What did he plan to do to her? Why had she figured this would be a safe haven? She managed to climb up into a crouch, still trying to flee, but her legs refused to move further. She was in a vision. He couldn't hurt her for real, but then again, she didn't really know that, not for sure. Please, he beseeched her. Sit. Talk with me. The voice was calm and words open, but she didn't trust him, not anymore. Not after being flipped around like a bit of fluff on the wind. Fluff that didn't like being treated in such a rude manner. You were here before, he added with a nod. There was a moment's pause as if he recognized her face, but then that recognition either faded or was quickly concealed. You will be here later. Her eyes opened wide, fearing what this man could do. My name is Starben. What's yours? Angelina refused to speak. No one had ever heard her speak in any other vision anyway, but then no one had whipped her around and sat her down before them either. This is what we call the Shadow's Veil, Starben offered with a patient nod. The waking world casts a shadow much like the people walking within it. Those who project their mind's eye, those who have the skill to have proper visions, travel along the shadow's veil, seeing elsewhere in the living world, but not being elsewhere at all. There are some well-trained magickers who cannot control a proper projection, and those with natural skill that impress the oldest mind. Angelina averted her gaze. The apprentice was still circling the room, staring at the old man, seemingly oblivious he was talking to her. So you're not here either, she mustered. I am here in this room, Starben replied, like you are present wherever you call home. But we are also here in the Vale, speaking. In the Vale, Angelina repeated softly. I mean you no harm. Angelina would be the judge of that. Why are you here? What did you come to town for? Starben nodded. We came seeking you. Angelina felt her sense of hope lift a little, but Still, she wasn't sure she trusted this man anymore. But he'd come looking for her, so she wanted to believe it was for a good reason. Starvin made some signs with his right hand and spoke something she couldn't hear. Angelina realized his real body didn't move, only the man she was speaking with. The double copy was moving. With those words muttered, a small shape partially took shape behind him. Half a hand and a shoe could be made out, but the rest was kind of fuzzy. The head lifted. Further out, a smaller shape could be seen as if huddled, curled up into itself. We have come to find the three of you. Angelina figured the larger, closer person was Gordon, but who was the smaller one further off? A person huddled? Sleeping somewhere else in town? Should they take that one north too? Wait. She reminded herself she wasn't sure she trusted this man anymore. Why would you do that? She demanded. Starben's smile was warm, so Angelina relaxed a little more, but she refused to relax further until he told her a lot more than just that he'd come looking for her. And no one other than Gord did anything for nothing. Even Spider had said the same thing when he'd come looking for her just a few hours past. Starben frowned as if rethinking his introduction. There is much to explain, he conceded. There will hopefully be time for me to explain it all to you when we meet in person. Suffice to say that we are here to help you three. Nothing more. Angelina found this approach easier to deal with. She sat with her one leg up, the other curled around her. What is your name? He asked again. Her resolve to remain quiet eased up a little. Angelina, she mumbled. You can really see me? Yes, I can. And we are right outside of town, waiting to meet with you, if you like. Against her better judgment, she found herself nodding. There are these things outside of town, she murmured. Collapsed, tent-like things with black rocks around them. She shrugged. We're going to have to go around them a little to get to you. A memory flashed, and she opened her eyes wide. There's something here with you, she warned. When I was here last, I felt, well, evil, a hunger that was hunting you. You're not safe there. He smiled back, inhaling deep. None of us are. Describe these tents to me. She did as best she could. He just listened and nodded some more. I've known things like that before. It would seem we are each and all of us in peril tonight. An angry shout drew Angelina's head around. The outer wall one room over erupted in flame with a smaller blast torching the night, followed by a shrill squeal. A foul smell curled the nose and turned her stomach, and she turned back around to find darkness overtaking the fire pit. Something broke stone and shattered wood. Something else yet knocked her aside. She fell off the cot under Town Hall, hitting her side and head, and shouting out for help. She was sitting up and glancing around in a panic a second later, then standing and turning, positive something was going to get her next. Oh no, she jabbered, sitting back against the wall and shaking her head. It's got them. She found Gordon looking over from his bunk with his hair matted in sweat. What was it? She demanded. Did you see what attacked them? Gordon mouthed some words. Nothing came out, but there was a shaky nod. We have to leave now, she asserted. We can't leave them to die. Those things could be coming for us. Gordon swallowed hard, closing his eyes. Don't you know what they are? He mumbled, wincing at a thought. And you want to run to them knowing they're out there? What do you mean? Angelina licked her lips. What are you talking about? Gordon hung his head a moment before standing and strutting stiffly down the length of their hideout. She followed after, just trying to keep up. Reaching his map table, Gordon knelt and withdrew a thick book from a lower shelf. Dropping it on the table, he summoned a strained laugh. You don't remember, he joked, flipping the book open and starting a feverish search. No one remembers anymore. Nothing much past rumors and nursery rhymes. Bad games played by stupid kids. He stopped at one page and held a breath. Nodding forlorn, he turned the book around and gazed across. This is what I saw. Angelina felt her heart slow. The flowing darkness, the force of what had knocked her over, the flames and piercing wail, the warehouse the wizards were hiding in, it all made sense, but it couldn't be. The deep-set silver eyes stared out at her from the jet-black face in the picture. Razor-sharp claws were drawn upon veiny fore and back paws, though the back legs were blurred. Legends had it the beast could change the size of those hind legs. They could become longer, too, from what the stories told. The picture drawn before her was wolf-like, but she'd heard tales of beasts twice that size and 3 times stronger than any man, and bulletproof. Knives apparently went right through them. They're only stories now, she mumbled, her mind reeling, fear making her heart pick up a quicker beat. They're all dead. They killed them all. She stared back across the table, pleading for Gordon to agree with her. The 10-year-old just leaned on the table and tried a few more words that weren't coming. Shoulders slumped. and eyes closed. We still have to find them, Angelina insisted. They'll have killed the beasts. They're wizards. They killed most of them back then, so they'll be fine. She was sure her words betrayed her fear and doubt, but she tried to sound upbeat anyway. This doesn't change anything. Gordon said nothing. Right? Who was the other person? Angelina furrowed her brow. A person in a huddle, she guessed. Gordon nodded. I don't know. She was pretty small compared to us, but that could mean she's anywhere, and we don't have the time to go looking for her. Or him, Gordon countered. Angelina shrugging. Let's leave now, Gordon suggested, before I change my mind. Before we both change our minds.